Thank you, Jennifer. I think we've got time for 3 questions, and we'll limit it to that. I'll let you choose which ones, though.
Okay, Joe, how are you?
Can you distinguish or contrast how confirmation of extraterrestrial life would differ, or how people's reactions would differ from acceptance of the theory of evolution?
How it would differ. I think people's, that's the harder question to answer quickly, because I think people's acceptance of evolution depends on in many cases, on their understanding of if there is some sort of philosophical or theological encasement of that. So it's not just the scientific data. It's what am I swallowing if I also swallow the biological data? Am I, is there also some sort of expected theological or philosophical belief that would go along with that? So I think in some sense it's very similar. If many people have come to peace with the idea that an evolutionary history of life on Earth can be compatible with a view of God's creation kind of thing. That can be a mechanism, but you don't have to see it that way. And likewise, I think it could be, you could come to peace with the idea that the same creative God that would do things on this planet could in fact be enabling life through evolution or whatnot other process elsewhere. But you don't have to come to that conclusion. So I think it's somewhat parallel, but I need to think about that a little bit. So, yeah.
There's no ET in the Bible, right?
There's no ET, but there's no non-ET. So it's kind of an open question. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I remember growing up, I was raised as a Catholic, but did not attend parochial school. But I did attend Sunday school, and there was this text that was universal for people like me. It was called the Baltimore Catechism. And it was a list of questions with the answer supplied by the church that basically inculcated the Catholic doctrine into young minds. I remember quite vividly, because of what I'm about to describe, the consequences of John Paul I's Ecumenical Council. It came out with a new version of this with an appendix with a series of additional questions. And the first question in the appendix was, can extraterrestrial beings, should they exist, be good Catholics or saved in the Catholic Church, even though they did not have the benefit of Jesus Christ dying for their sins? And the answer that was supplied, as I recall, said that yes, they can, even though they didn't have Jesus die for them, provided they had an ethical system and were good ethicists. That's a summary of what they said. And what got me thrown out of Sunday school for the rest of my life was when I said, but sisters, suppose their ethics required that they eat nuns.
Well, that's very interesting.
It was the intent, I think.
I think the one unifying principle that you could get from the sort of, Abrahamic faith's Bible is that this God is responsible for everything out there. And then beyond that, it's an open question. So, all right, what's one more? Yeah, right.
Tom Bainey is always a very hard act to follow. But one of the things that addresses both this discussion and the previous one, what should we do to prepare people for the discovery, and which no one has addressed actually in this group, the wonderful ethereal feeling that L is large. And that comes automatically no matter what kind of detection or what kind of decodability exists. The fact that some other civilization has undoubtedly lived and survived far longer than us should be just totally dominant in the explanation and the expectation of the discovery, in my view.
And can we also work to make these things happen? I mean, could that be some of Jill's proactiveness? Not her personally, but she was talking about preparing, that those are kind of things we'd like to see happen.
Sure, I think, I think we could talk through this. We're also affected by science fiction already, that it's kind of, it's hard to separate what we've seen in science fiction already to expect and what to prepare for in terms of reality when we actually, do find out there's life elsewhere. But I think this is the kind of attitude that we can teach and encourage, yeah.
Does it matter that much if you're in an Eastern religion, if you're going to be reincarnated?
You have to have a world.
According to this guy, Marc Kuchner, who wrote an article for Nature about the Ozma, L was the motivation for Philip Morrison and other people's interest in this question, precisely to see whether somebody could keep from blowing themselves up the way we appeared on the track to do.
The archaeology of the future.
Yep, yeah, it was certainly instrumental to Sagan's early writings on the subject.
But some religious groups, I think, might not share our interest.
I think further discussion will have to be referred for dinner.